Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the weeds of football predictions.
Yes, we are. We've got this great analysis from the Gambler's Ruin Project.
Right, powered by their smart bet AI technology, version 1.0.3.
And we're focusing on that upcoming Premier League clash, Newcastle United versus Chelsea.
May 11th, 2025, St. James's Park. Big one.
Definitely. So the idea here is to, unpack what this AI analysis is telling us.
Without getting bogged down in all the super technical stuff.
Exactly. We want to pull out the key insights, look at the different methods they used, and see what the potential outcome might be.
Okay. And just to quickly paint a picture of the conditions. The forecast for Newcastle around match time is mostly cloudy, a bit of a breeze, ESC about 12 miles per hour, and temperature around 63 Fahrenheit. So pretty decent football weather.
Comfortable, yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, the real story is on the pitch.
Absolutely. So where do we start? Injuries seem like a big factor here.
They really are.
Yeah.
And the AI report puts quite a bit of emphasis on them. Let's look at Newcastle first.
Okay.
It's got some significant absences, especially in midfield and defense. Joe Lenton's out, knee injury, probably until late May.
Ooh.
Lewis Hall, ankle, he's out longer, maybe July. Then in defense, Matt Targett, thigh, early June return.
Right.
Lloyd Kelly, well, that's another injury, listed as out till May 13th, so he might just miss this one. Touch and go.
The close one.
Jamal Lascelles, the captain, that serious knee injury, cruciate ligament. He's looking at late May, too. And Jamal Lewis, ankle, no date specified.
Wow, that's a lot of defenders and midfielders missing for Newcastle.
It really is. It definitely makes them look a bit, well, thin on the ground in key areas.
Okay, so what about Chelsea? Are they dealing with similar issues?
They have their own set of problems, yeah. Forward Mark Guiu, he's got a thigh issue. The return date is listed as match day, May 11th.
Questionable then.
Highly questionable, I'd say.
Yeah.
Wesley Fofana, defender, thigh injury, out until July, same as Hall for Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah. Omari Kellyman, midfielder, another thigh problem. He's out till early June. No. And then two forwards with less clear situations. Mikhailo Mudryk has a doping suspension, no return date given.
Right.
And David Datra Fofana is out indefinitely with a knee injury.
So, yeah, both squads are definitely feeling the strain. How does the smart bet AI actually, process this information? How does it factor injuries in?
Well, that's one of the interesting parts. The AI uses a kind of hybrid approach.
Okay.
For predicting goals, the actual number of goals, it uses something called Poisson regression. It's a statistical method often used for count data, like goals.
Makes sense.
But then for predicting the outcome, home win, draw, away win, it actually uses three different machine learning classifiers.
Classifier.
Yeah, like different ways of looking at the data to make a prediction. They use random forest, XGBoost, and MLP neural network.
Okay. Fancy names.
Yeah, a bit. But the key thing is the number of injuries each team has is fed into all of these models. It's a direct input.
I see. So the AI isn't just looking at past results. It's actively adjusting based on who's available now.
Precisely. It's trying to account for that reduced strength.
Okay, that's clever. Can we break down some of these core concepts a bit more, like ELO ratings? I've heard of those in chess, I think.
Exactly like in chess. It's the same basic principle. It's a way to measure team strength dynamically.
Dynamically meaning?
Meaning it changes after every match. Teams start with a base rating. Here it's 1,500. Win, and your rating goes up. Lose, it goes down.
And beating a strong team gives you more points than beating a weak one.
You got it. And losing to a weak team hurts your rating more. But what's cool here is that SmartBet AI adjusts these ELO ratings for injuries.
Oh.
Well, the specifics aren't detailed, but essentially the impact of a win or loss on the rating might be dampened or amplified based on the injury situation. So a team riddled with injuries might not gain as much for a win, potentially.
Gotcha. So what are the injury-adjusted ELO ratings for this match?
For Newcastle, it's 1,001.226. Chelsea is just slightly behind at 1,590.934.
Interesting. So even with all those injuries, Newcastle still has a slightly higher ELO rating.
According to this specific model, yes. It suggests their underlying quality, perhaps adjusted for opponent strength over time, still keeps them narrowly ahead in the ELO calculation, despite the current absences.
Fascinating. Okay, what about the goal prediction method you mentioned? Poisson regression.
Right. So Poisson regression is used to predict how many goals each team is likely to score. It's not just looking at past goal averages, though.
What else goes in?
A whole bunch of factors. Recent form, like points per game, offensive and defensive strength metrics, home advantage, which is always a factor.
Definitely.
Market betting odds are considered too, those injury counts we discussed. And even the ELO ratings themselves feed into the Poisson model.
So it pulls together a lot of different signals.
It does. And based on all that, the model predicts 1.83 goals for Newcastle, the home team,
Okay. Less than 2?
and 2.02 goals for Chelsea, the away team.
So just based on that initial prediction, Chelsea is slightly favored to score more goals.
Correct. The raw Poisson output leans slightly towards the away side in terms of expected goals.
But then there's this other term, bootstrapped Poisson simulation. Sounds complicated, is it?
It sounds more complex than the concept, maybe.
Yeah.
It's basically a way to handle the uncertainty. Football's random, right?
Yeah.
So instead of just relying on the single numbers 1.83 and 2.02, they run the simulation 10,000 times.
Impressive.
Yeah. Based on those initial rates, they simulate the goal-scoring process thousands of times to see the range of possible goal counts.
Ah, okay. So it's like playing the match out many times on paper, just looking at goals.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It gives us a better feel for what's likely and what's possible, but maybe less probable. The bootstrapped results are pretty similar to the initial ones, actually.
Oh.
Newcastle comes out at 1.92 expected goals in the simulation, and Chelsea at 2.01.
Still very close.
Very close. But crucially, it also gives confidence intervals. For both teams, the 95% confidence interval is basically 0 goals to 5 goals.
0 to 5. That's a huge range.
It is. And it really underlines the point. While the average might be around 2 goals, a 0-0 is possible, a 4-3 is possible, it reflects the inherent variability in football.
Okay, that makes sense. It shows the averages, but also the potential extremes. Now, what about those other models, the ones predicting the actual winner? Random forest, XG-boost.
Right, the machine learning classifiers. They look at similar inputs form. ELO, injuries, XG, home advantage, odds, but their job is different. They predict the outcome. Home win, draw, or away win.
So what do they say for this match?
Okay, so random forest, think of it like wisdom of the crowd, but with decision trees, it predicts a D draw.
Or draw, okay.
Then XG boost, which is often very powerful for these kinds of prediction tasks, predicts an away win for Chelsea.
All right, 1 for a draw, 1 for Chelsea. What about the third one?
The MLP neural network, that's a type of AI that tries to mimic brain connections to find patterns, it also predicts an away win.
So 2 out of 3 predicts Chelsea win, 1 predicts a draw.
That's the breakdown from the individual classifiers, yes.
The report mentions accuracy scores for these models too. 0.62, 0.65, 0.51. How should we interpret those?
Yeah, 0.62 for random forest, 0.65 for XG boost, and 45.1 for the MLP. They basically tell us how often these models got the result right when tested on past data.
So XG boost was slightly better in the past?
Historically, yes, with 65% accuracy in their tests. The MLP was just slightly better than guessing coin flips at 51%. But, and it's a big but, past performance isn't a guarantee, especially in football. An accuracy of 65% is decent. It's better than chance, but it still means the model gets it wrong about a third of the time.
Right, good context. So they're useful tools, but definitely not crystal balls.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And then there's one more layer, the stacked ensemble. What on earth is that?
Yeah, it sounds like stacking pancakes. It's kind of like that. It takes the predictions from the random forest, XG boost, and MLP models and feeds those predictions into another model. This final model learns how much weight to give to each of the individual predictions to try and make an even better combined forecast.
Ah, like a master predictor using the other predictors.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And in this case, the stacked ensemble result is a D draw.
A draw. So it agrees with the random forest, even though 2 of the underlying models pick Chelsea.
It seems so. Perhaps it learned to give more weight to the random forest prediction in this specific type of scenario, or maybe the combination just balanced out that way.
And its accuracy.
The stacked model has an accuracy of 0.65, same as the best individual model, XG boost.
Okay, interesting. So draw seems to be a strong contender based on those models. But wait, there's another simulation mentioned, Monte Carlo. How is that different from the bootstrap Poisson thing?
Good question. They sound similar, but they do slightly different things. The bootstrap Poisson helped us understand the range of possible goals for each team.
Right, the 0 to 5 range.
Exactly. The Monte Carlo simulation takes those goal predictions, the 1.92 for Newcastle and 2.01 for Chelsea from the bootstrap results, and simulates the entire match 10,000 times.
Ah, so it's generating potential score lines.
Precisely. It simulates 10,000 potential match results based on those goal likelihoods. From that, we can calculate the overall probability of a home win, a draw, or an away win.
Okay, and what did that simulation show?
This is where it leans slightly towards Chelsea again. The Monte Carlo results give Newcastle a 35.92% chance of winning.
Okay.
A draw comes out at 20.88%.
Lower than I might have expected, given the other models.
And an away win for Chelsea has the highest probability at 43.2%.
So the simulation playing out the match, based on expected goals, gives Chelsea the edge.
A slight edge, yes. Around a 43% chance versus roughly 36% for Newcastle.
Does it give likely scorelines too?
It does. The top 4 most probable scorelines from the 10,000 simulations were 1-2 Chelsea win at 8.54% probability.
Okay.
Then a 1-1 draw at 7.85%. A 2-1 Newcastle win is next at 7.4%. And then a 2-2 draw at 7.22%.
So the most likely single scoreline is a narrow Chelsea win, but draws and a narrow Newcastle win aren't far behind at all.
Exactly. It reinforces that idea of a close competitive match.
Right. Okay. Phew. That's a lot of different models and numbers. Let's try and synthesize this. What are the key takeaways from all this AI crunching?
Well, I think the main thing is that it's genuinely a close call. There isn't one single overwhelming prediction emerging.
Seems that way.
You've got the Poisson goal expectancy slightly favoring Chelsea. You have the random forest and the sophisticated stacked ensemble, both predicting a D draw. But then you have XG Boost and the neural network predicting an away win for Chelsea. And the Monte Carlo simulation also gives Chelsea the highest probability of winning, albeit not by a huge margin.
So definitely mixed signals. Does the AI give any sense of overall confidence? Or is the disagreement between models the main story?
I think the disagreement is a key part of the story. It reflects the complexity and the likely closeness of the actual match. The ELO ratings being so near each other, even with injury adjustments, points to two teams perceived as being on a similar level by the AI's core strength metric.
Right.
Those Newcastle injuries, especially defensively, are almost certainly pushing some of the models towards Chelsea, or at least away from predicting a clear Newcastle win.
Yeah, you have to think that level of disruption in defense and midfield plays a big role.
Absolutely. The models are trying to quantify that impact.
But, as we said, these are all probabilities at the end of the day, aren't they? Not definite outcomes.
Oh, absolutely critical to remember that. This is all based on statistics, historical data, and mathematical models. It's a forecast, not a fact.
Football just isn't that predictable.
Never has been, never will be.
Yeah.
One moment of magic, a mistake, a red card, a tactical masterstroke that the models couldn't anticipate.
Or just sheer determination or team spirit on the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All those intangible factors can easily swing a result against what the numbers might suggest.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. A real deep dive into how AI approaches predicting a match like Newcastle versus Chelsea. Amazing complexity.
It's fascinating stuff.
So for you, listening in, you've heard the analysis, a slight lean towards Chelsea and the goal expectancy and the Monte Carlo probability, but strong predictions for a draw from the random forest and the stacked ensemble. Considering all that, what about those things that AI can't easily measure? Team morale coming into this game? Any specific tactical surprises maybe brewing? And what about that St. James Park crowd? How much will that lift Newcastle, especially given their injury situation? What factor beyond the data do you think might just tip the balance in this one?
It really does make you think, doesn't it? The numbers provide a framework, but the beautiful unpredictability of the sport always adds that extra layer.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for breaking all that down for us.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.